조선중앙 방송입니다.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the YPT.life podcast. I'm your host, Justin Martell. Normally, Mr. Gareth Johnson is here with us, but as you can imagine, trying to coordinate interview times with people in 3 different time zones can be a little tricky. So it'll be just me today, but that's okay because we've got a great guest for you today. He's my personal friend, Mr. Jeffrey Donenfeld. He's an explorer, a science manager, and he works as a venture investor in technology startups. And occasionally we do ill-advised things in parts of the world your mother wishes you'd stayed away from. And as usual, at the YPT.life podcast, there are 2 versions. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're listening to the truncated, half-hour-long free version for all you freeloaders. Then, as you know, if you subscribe, we get into the juicy bits in the second half. And in this first half, we're going to spend a little time getting to know Jeffrey. We're going to talk about how we know each other and some just sort of general travel things. And then in the second half, we're going to talk about Jeffrey's involvement with the exclusive Explorers Club and his time working and living in Antarctica. And so if you want to hear that, please go to ypt.life and subscribe for as little as $3 a month. You can get access to this exclusive podcast, exclusive content like blog articles, travel blog articles, and our video club. So without further ado, I will get into it. Jeffrey, thank you for being on the YPT.life podcast.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me. And I was just thinking about it. I'm not subscribed to YPT.life yet either. I'm going to have to run out and immediately subscribe so that I can hear the rest of the podcast and get the full content.
Yes, I was going to withhold. I was going to withhold the private link from you. Yes, I wasn't going to send you the full version.
Darn. Well, I have to subscribe, but I'm excited to do so.
So I'll try to do, as Mr. Gareth Johnson does. So I'll open with just a simple question. How do we know each other?
How do we know each other? Let's see. I believe we met either in the lobby of a Holiday Inn in Beijing or at a Peking duck restaurant in Beijing, right? While on the night before we were supposed to fly to Pyongyang, North Korea. You were shooting a quick travel documentary of the trip, and I was there on a whim. I had just gotten off the ice in Antarctica and was on a trip in the Philippines or something. And someone was like, "Oh, you're going to be up in China. You should go to North Korea. There's a marathon there." And this was like 2 weeks before we met. And I said, "Oh, okay, all right, that sounds good. Let's do that." And kind of booked it on a whim. Ended up training for the marathon, the Pyongyang International Marathon, in a cemetery in the middle of Manila. That was very bizarre. And then met up with you, and we both flew to North Korea. And did all sorts of interesting things. It was very bizarre, very fun. Yeah. So there's the initial story of how we met. Since then, I mean, we've done a lot of other random things. I remember meeting up in were we in Bulgaria?
Bulgaria, yep.
In Bulgaria, and I tried to share a hotel room with you because it was like one night, had just gotten there, didn't know what was going on, and the hotel would not have it. They're like, no.
Oh no, sorry. That was it. Was
that Romania?
We first met. Yes, we were in Romania. We were in Bucharest.
That trip, right, in Bucharest, right.
And
the hotel was like, you cannot have guests in your room. You cannot have your friend crash on the floor of your tiny hotel room next to the train station.
Yeah, I was in Bucharest, and yeah, we were
Right.
staying at this dodgy hotel near
Yeah.
the train station
Right.
with
Love a good
there
trip.
may have been some friendly ladies in the park, nearby. So I
But I
think that
wasn't. I was not one of those friendly ladies. Okay.
but
You
then
know
that was
me.
certainly no, I know, but that was certainly the implication from the nice woman
I
at the
know.
front desk.
That was hilarious. But that was a great trip through those countries, and a lot of good things happened there. I think we did you were at my bachelor party in Mexico, where we did all sorts of interesting scuba diving in pits of water coming out of the jungle. I think we thoroughly freaked you out on a sailboat.
Well, yes, when you jumped off the sailboat and
When I
left
jumped
the
off,
pilot,
yeah, all sorts of good stuff.
certainly. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, as I said, we've been all over the world together since, and
And
since that fateful meeting in China just before going
yeah,
to Pyongyang.
and we've had one adventure shut down twice by pandemic concerns, but we're hopefully that will come together.
Yes, and for our listeners, yeah, we have been trying at least to plan a trip with YPT
Yeah.
to go on the Kurdistan tour. Unfortunately, COVID has and new strains of COVID have complicated that now twice. But as you pioneers know, and probably through watching the travel updates at our websites, we are keeping everybody abreast or two as to the situation.
Yeah. And I mean, look, to be honest, I think that's one of the cooler things about working with YPT and planning trips is, you go right up to the line of what's possible, and also keep a pretty darn realistic view on planning these things out, So
Exactly. It's not
Kurdistan
normal.
Kurdistan is out there, is way out there,
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah, it's unusual to plan a trip to an autonomous region in northern Iraq during normal circumstances.
Right.
Yeah.
But it can be done. And it actually looks, by all measures, to be a wonderful, awesome area that is safe and so much fun. And it's it's interesting to see the process of assessing the pandemic state and doing what actually is going to work. But hopefully we can make that happen.
I think we will, especially with
I think we will too.
How things are shaping up now.
Yeah.
And going back, it's funny. Just an anecdote about when we first met and we were on our way. With respect to our April 2015 trip to Pyongyang, I think yes, we did meet. So we met on the bus. Started talking on the bus on the way to the airport, and I was telling you about how I had gone to Tiananmen Square the night before. And somebody a woman, a nice lady, tried to T-scam me. And you looked at me and you go,
really? Right.
Oh, she tried to T-scam me. You go, I've been here for a week. I've been trying to get T-scammed and I can't.
I just can't get scammed.
Yeah. And
come on.
And then we get on our Air Korea flight. We had our mystery meat burgers and we landed in Pyongyang.
And we had music. We had inspirational music the entire flight.
As you do, it would not be an Air Korea flight without revolutionary music playing. And we landed, and I think we're on like a little shuttle bus after coming down the stair cart as we were, are disembarking in Pyongyang. And we hadn't talked that much, and you pull out your cell phone and you're looking at it and you go, man, I was, Tinder was like off the hook in Beijing, but I'm not getting anything here in Pyongyang. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, is this guy for real? Like, I wasn't sure yet. Very soon I figured out it was a joke, but I was like,
it was a joke.
Serious?
It was a joke, and a hilarious joke.
Indeed it was. And
but hey, I mean, it's crazier things have happened. There was, I mentioned before, I worked in Antarctica and spent a good amount of time basically stranded at McMurdo Station on the coast. And there was actually a Tinder match that happened in McMurdo. I think there was a Times article about it like a few years ago. So
incredible,
right?
Well, what happened though? Was there more? Did you know the people?
No, I didn't know the people. I read about it just like everyone else, but it was
Okay.
interesting to hear about that, and interesting what happens in random weird parts of the world.
Yep. Well, I think though maybe there might be more internet connectivity in Antarctica than in Pyongyang. That very well
Could be
may be
right.
the case.
Could be
um,
right.
so okay, so let's back up a second. There's a lot to I think get through before you even get to you going to North Korea. I mean, so would you like to tell everybody a little bit about where you grew up? How did you first get into traveling, adventure travel? What was the first major trip that you took, like
Oh
outside
my
of your
god.
normal travel destinations, where you were like, okay, most people I know want to travel to Paris, or they want to go to Mexico or Canada or whatever. I want to go to the Philippines. Eventually, I want to go to North Korea.
Yeah,
How did you arrive at that?
that's a really good question. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. Most of my family is originally from New York. Um, and I think I remember in like high school having not really traveled internationally that much and being like, this is crazy. Like all my friends have traveled internationally. Like I want to go places. And it wasn't until like the end of high school and into college that I really started traveling more. Um, and then, oh man, this is like some way back memories here. I'm gonna have to break out my app of countries I've been to. But I think I remember junior year of college, did study abroad in Spain, in Granada, Spain, which was a lot of fun. And and I convinced a friend of mine to get on just the kind of not commuter ferry, but the random ferry from Algeciras, Spain, um, to Tangiers, Morocco, which is just like the town that's just across the way there, and kind of just like spent a little while wandering around Tangiers in the market and walking out into the desert, and I remember that just being a really cool, a really interesting wake up in thinking, okay, I just I'm in Spain, that's cool enough, but I had the whole study abroad department help me book that. But I just randomly bought a ticket on a ferry, and now I'm walking around Morocco, and it's fine. We're eating the best food and having a great time, and it feels safe. We're not like trying to get into trouble, and no one's messing with us, and this is great. And it was kind of a freeing moment. And then after that study abroad thing, like years and years ago, I went to as many countries in Europe as I could, and the list has continued on from there. So that's kind of my first big experience. I think understanding that you can go places, and places that aren't major tourist destinations, that you wouldn't just know intrinsically are safe, and that your mother or your concerned friends would be like, oh wait, you can't just go to a random town in Morocco. um, and it's like, no, you can, and it's fine. And even despite the governments, despite whatever's going on, like people are people, and people are usually pretty nice and awesome. And it's inspiring to go actually test that theory. It's always been true so far, with limited exceptions, but mostly true. I'm looking at my app that has a little list of random countries that I've been to, thinking of other places. Any specific parts of the world you want to hear about?
Well, I mean, I guess I would
Anything
be
else?
like, what was the
That
okay?
was
So
like that was number one big travel thing that I can really remember.
right, and so that was okay. So that was like,
That was a long time ago.
yeah, and that was in Spain, and that was your sort of, I would say, sort of like accidental adventure travel.
Yeah.
You went over to Morocco. What was so then? What would you say would be the like first trip where that you said, all right, I'm gonna like plan this out? That people looked at you and said, like, are you sure that's what you want to
So
do?
I think it was a few years later that I went to Israel for a week or so and did a big trip in Israel. And then after that trip to Israel, my buddy Sean and I, who because you went to Mexico with us, he and I bought tickets to Egypt and it decided to hop on the commuter train and try to get as close to Sudan as possible, like all the way south. And as you know, there's like that pocket of disputed land between Egypt and Sudan, and
Yeah,
all sorts of interesting things.
We did a whole episode on that, actually,
Right.
episode 2 with Dean
Hey, all right.
Karolikas. Yeah.
Well, so go listen to that. I'm going to listen to that right after this.
Yeah.
And we did it, and we were on a random commuter train, stopping in random spots in Egypt and just going down the Nile. Walked into like all these random little villages. There was a day when we were striking out to go to Abu Simbel, this southern monument, and there's all these sheep in the streets, like tied up to telephone poles in the streets, like tons of sheep everywhere. I'm like, what is going on around here? We go out into the desert and do the visit to the monument. Come back, no more sheep, lots of sheep skins piled up and lots of blood everywhere, like washes of blood. Like, all right, I guess some sort of festival just happened here. And that was that was a big adventure, being kind of planned to go as far as we could and encountering a lot of things we didn't expect.
And so did you make it to Sudan?
We didn't. We could not. Oh my God. We didn't plan that well, and we couldn't convince our taxi driver to go.
Now, what did you plan? What did you plan to do at the border? Were you going to try to get a visa on arrival in Sudan?
I mean, that was yeah, right, exactly. I mean, that's similar to the time that I drove through Turkey to the border of Syria, and I have a picture of myself with my toe over the line into Syria, and we tried to walk into Syria, and the border guard like looked at us and he said, "You can go to Syria. It's no problem. We will let you through." And then he said, "But you're not getting out of Syria if you go into Syria. If you cross over through the buffer zone into Syria, they're not going to let you out." And so we took a great picture of us with our toes over the line, like, Syria. And then went and drove to Gaziantep and ate lots of baklava.
There you go, and I'm sure that was a much happier ending to that.
Yeah, and that night I thought I was going to die because I ate the hottest pepper I've ever eaten. As a word of advice, we were in Gaziantep, Turkey. I asked for a hotter pepper other than the ones they have in the jar on the table. When the whole kitchen staff comes out of the kitchen to see you eat the pepper they're going to give you, it's a bad sign.
And how did it go over? What was
I don't know. I hallucinated a little bit. It was out of body experience.
Yes, transcendent even. So what would you say? How many countries would you say that you've been to? Would be the first part. It's going to be a 2-part question, but I'll let you answer that part first.
I'd say 76.
Okay, and so
not a big number, but pretty good.
Yeah, no, certainly it's more than me at this point. And what list are you working off of? Are you doing the official UN list? Do you have some disputed territories? And then my question with relation to that is, in your opinion, what constitutes what makes a country? Like, have you been to any unrecognized states or countries that you would consider a country, even though they're not recognized by the UN?
Well, so I'm going off the UN list because that's usually what's easy to account for. Yeah, that's the list I'm going off of in terms of just racking these up. But it's a good question because there's lots of, like we were just talking about Kurdistan. There's lots of distinct peoples that are doing their own thing in distinctly different ways across recognized borders. I think that I've been to Israel, I think 5 or 6 times, and I've also been to Palestine, Palestinian territories and that whole area. And I think that's, obviously hotly contested, inch by inch, hotly contested, and is an interesting place, and obviously a distinct people and a unique culture. And yeah, so been to a couple of places like that. Arguably, I spent 2 seasons on the ice in Antarctica working within the United States Antarctic program. one season as a contractor, another season as a science grantee on a science team. And we were at McMurdo. I, walked over to Scott Base, which is the New Zealand Kiwi base, and then lived at the South Pole, which is a U.S. base. But you can look at there's unofficial maps that have been drawn up that parse out Antarctica into like pie slices for countries who have claims, and that's an interesting topic to get started on because it's none of the claims are really recognized, right? Antarctica is a reserved open land for the benefit of humanity, for science and exploration and everything. That said, all these countries have little claims, and if one recognizes the other, then it's a whole cascade, and it's kind of a contentious issue. And so, just one random story from the South Pole. I was one of my unofficial jobs at the South Pole was I got to go give tours to tourists who would show up. So I get to put on my big red parka with my name tag on it and meet tourists who would fly in on private tourism flights, at their plane, and then show them to the pole and show them around the station, kind of give them a little history and talk on the station. And there are definitely like some contentious times when there are tourists from different countries taking pictures at the pole that you kind of don't want to have provocative images at the pole. You just want people giving a thumbs up at the South Pole, and you don't want to create any incidents or insinuate anything, and really want to just keep it open and equitable for all without claims or insinuations or anything. And so that was another disputed territory.
Well, that's interesting. Let's actually, because I feel like, on this podcast, we spend a lot of time talking about these things. Have you been to Abkhazia? Have you been to Transnistria, North Korea and stuff? Let's talk about. Well, let's not even. Let's.
You've given me plastic money from Transnistria, though.
Indeed, because we met on that same trip. I had come from Transnistria into Moldova, and then to Romania, and that's when I met you. Gave you the Transnistrian rubles.
There you go.
But let's focus a little bit. I think what we'll do is.
Oh wait! Oh shit! No. This is a token from the Kiev Metro. Shit.
And by the way, for all of you listening, Jeff has just from his closet gotten a little tin, a little Chicago tin, and he's some trinkets have poured out, and he's and there it is. He's just held up.
There's a Transnistrian ruble.
It's a five Transnistrian ruble blue plastic coin in the shape of a pentagon. And
it's a pentagonal plastic chip. You can, pretty interesting. Plastic money.
Indeed. I mean, it's like entering a casino. You trade in your USD for funny money. Pretty good. But let's stick with your sort of unique experience. Can you tell us a little bit about, you were talking about the different sort of areas of control or territories of how Antarctica is carved up. And in the second half, we'll get into what personally, how you ended up in Antarctica. We'll save that for the second half, but let's talk about just sort of in like a sort of general sense for people who might just think Antarctica is like a frozen wasteland and nobody's really there. What does it actually look like in terms of jurisdiction and all of that?
First of all, it's pretty frozen. It's very frozen. In my second season, I lived at the West Antarctic Ice Sheet Field Camp for a couple weeks and lived in a tent on the ice in very, very cold temperatures, and that was intense. In terms of jurisdiction, Antarctica is supposed to be free and open to all for science and exploration and research and everything. The largest base there, McMurdo, is run by the U.S. and hosts international science and people from all over the world. Same with the South Pole Station, the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station, is run by the U.S. and hosts scientists and people from all over the world. There's also a number of other smaller U.S. stations. Palmer Station is one of the other notable ones, and then there's stations from countries all over the world: Chinese, Japan, all over the place. Yeah, so that's kind of the jurisdiction within the U.S. stations. The United States Antarctic Program kind of oversees the whole operation. That's funded by the National Science Foundation, and then for service and support, there's a number of support subcontractors. The U.S. Air Force through Operation Deep Freeze and New York Air National Guard helps run a lot of flight logistics there. And then various research institutions funded by the NSF perform research down there, do all sorts of fun stuff. Also, notably, since we're maybe going to talk a little bit about this, Roald Amundsen, the first to reach the South Pole, who the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station is partially named after, is a fellow member of the Explorers Club. So thought that was interesting to talk about. Got some Explorers Club representation at the South Pole, 1911.
Indeed, and we're going to get all into that in the second half. And in terms of like the different areas, okay, so you're saying like the United States is kind of overseeing the operation, but in terms of different areas, run by different countries, like, could you just rock up to the Japanese area, or do you have to get clearance to go in? How do things like that work?
You can technically do that. You kind of need to get, it's polite to get clearance. And, I'm not the foremost expert on this. It's polite to get clearance. You're not really, at the South Pole for tourists coming to the South Pole. They're supposed to have a representative show them into the station. That's U.S. property. And can kind of we have like a staked out area for them to park their plane and where they can go and hang out. But the etiquette is to check in with whoever runs the base if you want to go onto their areas. And a lot of it is to protect the science that's being done there. At the South Pole, there's seismic experiments. There's stuff under the snow all over the place. There's atmospheric research laboratories like Arrow, which does atmospheric research. And if you go walk up to that or taxi a plane up to that, upwind from that, you're gonna put exhaust into their sensors, screw up readings. So it's just kind of the polite thing to do. South Pole.
All right. Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay. All the things. It's a really interesting area to go to. And the last thing I'll say on that is it's fun to do tours around the world at the South Pole and simply walk around the pole. And just like everybody else, I did that too. Did a little selfie, said, we're going to go on a trip around the world, and walked 15 feet around the pole.
And for anybody actually also looking to visit Antarctica and check out some of the scenery and the atmosphere that Jeffrey is talking about, you can actually join YPT's Antarctica Frozen Continent Expedition from December 15th to December 24th, 2021. So check that out. Is that something you would be interested in, Jeff? Should people do that?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I would love to see the tourist side of going there and see all those areas that I haven't seen, and people should definitely do that.
What would be your advice to tourists?
Oh man, advice to tourists going to Antarctica. I'm just looking at an old wallet that I have with an inspirational piece of advice that I told myself years ago, and is still relevant. F8 and be there, right? Don't worry about the gear too much. Make sure you've got good gear and a poofy jacket and all the things, and then just be there and enjoy it and be present. And also getting there is half the journey. You get to go to Ushuaia, Argentina, fly across, maybe check out some islands, check out glaciers, do all sorts of stuff. So super cool. Oh, also one practical bit of advice: batteries freeze, cameras freeze, LCD screens freeze. So bring extra batteries so you can keep batteries in your jacket and keep them warm. That helped me a lot.
Have you ever seen a tourist? When you had to greet people and give tours, did you ever see a tourist come woefully unprepared for the experience?
I don't know about that. The tourists that
Mhm.
I got to give tours to at the South Pole station made it all the way down to the South Pole, which is a very select group. They generally knew what was going on, helped them out. You know, also, I'm keeping this in mind right now because I'm going on an expedition to the Galapagos Islands next week. Um, I'm a big fan of packing the essentials and not too much more, and kind of figuring a lot of it out. You know, when you're there, you should, and especially in Antarctica, you should be safe and pack enough to be safe and secure and not freeze to death or anything. But I also think that it's nice to just go light and figure things out and have an excuse to like buy something interesting in the field that you might need or is an upgrade, stuff like that. I'm a big fan of that.
Well, it's funny actually. I since meeting you, I've tried my best, and it doesn't always work, but I've tried my best to follow the one bag policy.
Yeah, yeah. There's a good subreddit for
Yep.
that.
And you know what? I think that's actually a good place to sort of leave us off with the free version. So everybody, thank you for tuning in and listening to the free half of our interview with Mr. Jeffrey Donenfeld.
Well,
What's that?
nope, nothing. All
Oh,
good.
okay.
I was just thinking, why would you tune out now? Why not listen to the rest?
Agreed.
Yeah.
So subscribers, the interview is just going to continue as normal. For all of you who want to hear the rest, please visit ypt.life and visit the subscribe section
Yeah.
and see our various subscriber options. For as little as $3 a month, you can have access to this podcast and many other wonderful exclusive special features. Okay, so now we're in the subscribers only section of
Hi
our
guys.
our interview
Thanks
with
for coming
Jeffrey
back.
Donenfeld. And
It's going to
in
get
this,
raw and untamed now, and I'm going to interrupt Justin more.
all right. And in this, I really want to actually I want to focus on some of the scientific work that you've done, Jeffrey, and get into some of these things. You know, how you ended up in Antarctica. Let's talk about the Explorers Club. So, okay, so you were interested in travel from an early age and sort of going to places that might not be your usual travel destination. I think a lot of people would have that in common with you. That listen to this podcast. What they might not have in common with you, though, is that you are a member of the exclusive and
Yeah.
Explorers Club. Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that and how the circumstances leading up to that, your sort of
Yeah.
interest in scientific exploration as you were, growing up, and
Sure.
how did you
Sure.
get there?
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, I am a member of the Explorers Club. I've been a member for like 6 or 7 years now. And the basis of my membership was after my first season. Actually, I want to say my second season on the ice in Antarctica, working with the University of Wisconsin Space Science and Engineering Center on maintaining the deep ice sheet coring drill at the West Antarctic Ice Sheet Field Camp. The deep ice sheet coring drill is an ice coring drill that operated for many years, drilling one of the deepest ice core samples in the world on top of a little ridge of ice in Western Antarctica, all the way down to the bedrock. But I think it's about 3.5 miles. And the ice core samples are maybe 6 inches in diameter by a couple feet long and are pulled up from various levels and then packaged and shipped back to the National Ice Core Laboratory here in Denver, where I am right now. And then those ice core samples are sliced up and given to scientists for a whole host of scientific research, glaciology, climatology, atmospheric science. Scientists are looking at dissolved gases in the ice, layers of ash, crystal structure, all sorts of stuff. And so I worked with that team as a field science manager and helped manage the maintenance of the equipment and eventual disassembly and retroing of the equipment back to Wisconsin so that it could be worked on and then hopefully redeployed in a new location. It was a special expedition and really an honor to be involved with that. and to be able to support atmospheric science like that, and support the program and the initiatives of the National Science Foundation and the University of Wisconsin, and everything. And so
And so how did you get involved in that? Did you apply for a position? How did that
I
go?
did. I made friends. My first year working in Antarctica was working for the Antarctic support contract under Lockheed Martin and another subcontractor at the South Pole. So kind of working in a support position. But I met a ton of amazing people, including some amazing scientists, and basically spent all the free time that I had on the ice when I wasn't doing my main job, volunteering my time with the science groups and saying, "Hey guys, let me carry stuff out to your work site. Let me help you out on the weekends, on nights, like whatever you need. I just want to be involved because it's special to be here, and it's special to be able to directly support important science." So at the South Pole, I got to work. Help out in a very small part in the Ascarian radio array with the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, with all sorts of with the South Pole Telescope, with the Keck Array Telescope, all sorts of cool things. And I was by no means directly working with the science. It was more helping carry things and tightening bolts, maybe stuff like that, but small part. So that was kind of the beginning of getting involved with the Explorers Club and understanding that there's a divide. There's a divide between adventure and like adventure travel and tourism, and exploration and scientific exploration, or promoting science. So the Explorers Club is an organization, a professional society, right, that promotes scientific exploration and study around the world. It's been around in New York City for since 1904. Has chapters all over the world. I'm part of the Rocky Mountain chapter, and I'm also a member of the Maine Explorers Club. And has been since 1904. Has hosted all sorts of talks and lectures and educational events at the club and around the world. Has supported scientific expeditions to discover more about our world and learn about the world all over the place. And it's really an honor to be part of such a select group. I'm just thinking, earlier this week we had the Rocky Mountain Explorers Club chapter event. We had some great speakers, and we always have amazing speakers. And invariably, you go to these events, you go to any Explorers Club event and talk to anybody and say, what's your story? What do you do? And it's always an amazing talk. And every single person has a story, and every single person is really making contributions to our understanding of our world, which is really valuable. It's a great feeling to be amongst those people. So.
And what was the induction process like for those who want to know? And our
super secret.
I've got to tell our listeners, I'm sorry, but just because you went to Taedonggang No. 3 Beer Bar, which, by the way, Jeff, we've been there. It's that bar near the Juche Tower, and just because you went there and tried all 7 different types of beer on tap, which I think I did in front of you, Jeff, but just because you tried all 7 types of beer at Taedonggang No. 3 Beer Bar, I don't think is that eligible for induction, or does that not count?
I don't think that would count, but
okay.
Look, beer is certainly an age-old cultural touch point, and right. There's lots to learn about the history of beer and how it has shaped society and culture, and I'm sure there's a spin that's valuable.
Yes,
and I mean,
you're right.
and
so there's an angle for sure.
There is an angle, and if you go to explorers.org, there's a whole section of flagged expeditions that you can look at. Carrying the flag, you can look at flag reports on the website, and just, I mean, the few that are online, pick any one and look through it, and it's mind blowing what's been done. So,
well, tell us. Yeah, I guess, can you tell us more about sort of the different types of expeditions that have been done? I mean, I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
let's go over, like, so I'm just some of the highlights of the Explorers Club. I mean, every expedition is a highlight, and everything, from big to small, it's all amazing. But so, 1909, right? Robert Perry, Matthew Henson, and Utah, North Pole, first to reach the North Pole. We talked about Roald Amundsen reaching the South Pole. These are all Explorers Club members. How about our friends Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, Mount Everest, Explorers Club members. Going to the bottom of the ocean, Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh, and then our buddies, the Apollo astronauts, first to the surface of the moon with a very small Explorers Club flag. And so those are some pretty interesting expeditions. There's expeditions that happen every year, and there's thousands of Explorers Club expeditions. Not all of them are flagged expeditions, but a lot of them are. And there's desert survey projects. I'm looking at 2017 and 2018. There's an ongoing expedition to continue to map parts of underwater cave systems, right? The Sistema Hualta, that's been going on for a while, and is really, each one of their reports is incredible.
Right? Haven't we only actually explored like 5% of the ocean or something crazy small like that?
Right. Yeah. There's amazing expeditions that are going on all the time. Yeah.
And that's one of the things, actually. So I will say to our listeners, actually, Jeffrey once very kindly invited me to the Explorers Club.
Yeah.
Is it the headquarters in New York City?
It is.
Or is
Yep.
it brought me to the headquarters in New York City, and I got to go in there. I felt like I was I walked onto the set of Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. And
they kind of parody that in the movie.
Well, it all makes a lot of sense. But one of the things that you pointed out to me were the different flags that had been, and that's what was interesting, is that it's not like each expedition has its own flag, that there are X amount of numbers of flags, and that certain flags have been on multiple expeditions, and they had the flags like marked of which expeditions that they'd been on. Right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. And some of the flags get retired. Once they've gone on a certain amount of expeditions, or gone to, say the bottom of the ocean, and the top of Mount Everest gets retired and kind of put up on the wall, and they each have their own story. They really do.
And now, have you done any? Have you done any flagged expeditions?
Nope, not yet. And that's something I'd love to do. And I think it's a pretty lofty goal to be able to contribute to science and understanding and exploration in a meaningful way, in a way that's I guess kind of supported by the club. I think that carrying the flag isn't the ultimate goal. Making a contribution and connecting with the other members and kind of supporting the whole organization is the goal. And it would be an honor to be able to carry the flag as well. Connecting with other members is one of the coolest things, because, like I said, everyone's got a crazy story.
Now, what are some of the, again, because it's like, I feel like there's, it's just some obvious things that you would think, like, such as working in Antarctica and doing research there, or mapping, underwater caves. What was something that really surprised you? That obviously was an important, contribution to science, but like something that maybe somebody that you met, or something that you were like, oh, wow, I never even thought of that, but that's pretty interesting.
Well, look, since we're talking about space, one of the things that, and actually you can't see this, but I'm wearing from Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, and a Saturn F1 engine diagram, right? And so actually, one interesting Explorers Club flagged expedition was was done by David Conklin for Jeff Bezos and with Bezos Expeditions, and they actually took a boat out to the ocean, and it was a huge expedition, but recovered the Saturn F1 engines from the Apollo missions and dragged them up off the bottom of the ocean. And they're now actually, and I actually went there, they're at the Museum of Flight in Seattle, stood in front of them myself, and got to see the massive injector plates and all sorts of cool stuff. And, it's not like they're climbing a mountain or like visiting, some sort of tribe of people in, North Sentinel Island or something like that, right? They're dredging trash. They're dredging up trash off the bottom of the ocean, but pretty significant trash.
Honestly, I think you'd be safer doing that than trying to go and meet the Sentinelese.
Yeah. There was some sort of wasn't there a report a few years ago of some guy who tried to walk go ashore?
Well, he went ashore and he made contact with them, and I think that they maybe tried to figure him out, because I think it was like he talked to them a couple times.
Not associated with the Explorers Club at all in any way, shape, or form.
No, he was a Christian. He was a Christian missionary. He was a Christian missionary, and he actually got straight. He made and I think maybe the Sentinelese, they were gonna sort of feel him out and see what his deal is, and then I think at a certain point they realized, I don't know, he was a Christian missionary, and they shot him with a bow and arrow. And
right.
The story of arrows. But
no bueno.
But going back to actually, we're talking about space exploration. You were just showing me some stamps in your passport from something connected to space exploration.
Here's another fun picture that nobody can see, but this is me standing at the launch pad for the Soyuz rockets at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. That was again not an Explorers Club associated event, but had a fun time going out to the Baikonur Cosmodrome 2 years ago and getting a tour of the launch pads and all the facilities. I got to go check out the mission control center for the Buran, which was like the Russian copy of the U.S. space shuttle, right? It was like the Russian shuttle, and it's all sorts of interesting things. Lived in a very tiny hotel room, like kind of Soviet bloc style hotel room across the square from the headquarters of Roscosmos in Baikonur, and bought camel socks from a Mongolian lady that are very scratchy.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that sounds like a successful trip for sure.
And wore this hat a lot.
Oh, that's your Kazakh hat. There you go.
This is actually a Kyrgyz hat from Kyrgyzstan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm very
same trip.
Yeah, Central Asia is very underrepresented on my my map, my Marco Polo map.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's a great area. It's a really cool area.
Oh, it's on my list.
Stuff.
Actually, it's funny. That was actually one of the other trips we were going to do before COVID sort of shut everything down. So we were actually also, before Kurdistan, we were planning a trip to Turkmenistan. So we'll get back to that too. Yes,
we were going to go cook. We were going to go cook eggs in that Gates of Hell crater in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yep.
That's like
yeah. I was going to try to fly my drone over it, and hopefully it didn't melt. Now, okay, so there's one other thing. We're sort of coming down to the final minutes here, but I want to talk about something that actually that amused me. I don't know if it amused you or not, but people visit your website, jeffreydonenfeld.com, and we're going to put the link in our what?
Okay, go on. I don't know what you're going to say here.
Okay. There are some videos from your stint in Antarctica, and I was very amused. I was very amused by some of the more aggressive comments on you. And it's interesting because you wouldn't expect that there would be like some haters in those comments section. But then
the YouTube comments on my Antarctica videos. Oh my God! Come on.
Who went after you with your Antarctica videos?
I mean, look, I don't know who don't know any of the people that comment. It's YouTube. It's the illustrious comment section of YouTube. But
No,
there
but
are
I'm talking about a very specific group of people.
Oh, well, which you mean, the flat earthers, the
Yes, the
lizard
flat
people,
earther.
the conspiracy theorists?
Well, did the one I
there's
saw
all these sorts of groups.
the one I saw were the flat earthers, but did the reptilian people show up too?
Yeah, they did. There's a picture of me in the ice tunnels underneath the South Pole, which are these tunnels that are under the station and in areas like around the South Pole station that are like utility corridors that we run. The electrical lines and fuel lines and really utility corridors. And there's some access down there for a couple scientific experiments when I was there. And a lot of this has probably changed since then, but there was a seismometer that, it has to be buried, and there's an access door and everything. And I have a picture of myself like in front of this access door. It's like, we didn't go through there because it's like a protected scientific area, and why would you mess with that? But yeah, apparently some of the lizard people think that's the door to the inside of the earth where the lizard people live or something, which is awesome, hilarious. And then there's the slew of flat earther comments that continue to come in, and
But what are their claims? What is the like?
You know what? I don't want to. You can repeat the claims. I'm not going to repeat any claims.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know. All I can think of when I hear that stuff is that the end of Dark City was awesome, and it's an awesome movie. That's for whatever reason, that's what goes through my head.
All right then. Okay, so I urge people to have a look at your videos because they are very interesting, but then also have a look at the comment sections too, because that's kind of also
it's hilarious and entertaining.
Yeah, but mind-boggling and very entertaining also.
I mean, and that's that's something that I think about it. I kind of talk to people about a lot about my time in Antarctica. It's an honor to be able to work with those people down there and to be able to contribute to science and understanding and everything. And there's nothing, as far as I know, and I'm concerned, I don't have anything to hide about what happened down there. I don't have anything like particularly salacious to say. I'm all about supporting the program, and yeah, like, people try to get like secrets and nuggets out of me all the time, and I'm like, I don't know what to say, So
how much is it? How much of the experience is like the thing? That would be my last question.
So they actually, I have not wintered over at the South Pole, but what I hear is that once the last main body people leave the South Pole, like once I left the South Pole after my season there was done, the people sticking around for the winter over will go and watch the thing at the South Pole. That's like a little tradition. So that'd be great. Love to do that.
Yeah, that's certainly a great way to kick off the winter. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
All right. So what's next? I mean, what's the as things are sort of clearing up, we're sort of coming out of this whole COVID situation, and people are going to start to travel again. And it's not really that easy right now, but I think pretty soon it will get better. What's next besides Kurdistan and Turkmenistan?
I was going to say Kurdistan, Turkmenistan, Galapagos is next week.
Right.
Excited to do that. Hopefully some more sailing expeditions in the Pacific. We've been thinking about a sailing expedition to the Seychelles. I think that would be a lot of fun. Iran, if the situation there calms down, Iran's supposed to be a beautiful and amazing country, would be great. I don't know. Give me a country. Let's go. Let's make it happen. I've got a big hole in the map for Mongolia, and then there's some major holes on the map for like a lot of Africa. I mean, Egypt and Morocco are technically Africa, but they're kind of like, not really Africa. And then there's a lot of opportunity for South America. So we can meet up in Lesotho, go check out Eswatini, and then go get drinks at South Africa.
Sounds good to me. I'll be there.
I don't know. I gotta get out my my map again. I need some more wall space for more maps so I can look at stuff and put arrows on it.
All right.
What's next? What's next for you, Justin?
Honestly, right now it looks like a lot of
inner space.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a lot of inertia. Actually, no, some domestic travel right now in the U.S. I'm going to go to this weekend. I'm going to go to Kansas actually for
sweet.
the first time. And
Awesome.
yeah, and then honestly, just we'll be as things open up. Looking to cross Cambodia off of my list. Gareth's, our listeners know Gareth's out there right now, and we have some business opportunities we're going to be exploring there. So I mean, we'll be looking into
I'd
that.
say that we as listeners and fans of Gareth should all just show up and hang out.
I wonder how that'll go over.
Just descend in Cambodia on Gareth's compound.
He is quite the gregarious personality. So that could go well for one night. A big party. Sure, certainly. Big YPT party reunion. But actually, I think for right now, and our listeners should know that actually one of the things that we're offering with YPT.life is that we'll be doing Google Hangouts hosted by Mr. Gareth Johnson for our members. And you can chat with your favorite YPT guides, and everybody can sort of catch up as to what they've been doing over the last year, and if they've been able to travel during the pandemic and all that. Listen, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and talking about your experiences. It's certainly unique. As you said, there is certainly a line between adventure travel and scientific exploration. And, it's not every day that we get somebody such as yourself on to talk about those things. So it's totally fascinating like some of our listeners may travel, may go on our Antarctic expedition. But how many of them have seen the other side? And you have, so that's very cool. So we certainly appreciate that.
Right on. So it's a good to talk to you. Thanks for the time, and looking forward to seeing you in person somewhere interesting sometime soon.
I don't doubt that we will. All right. And that concludes our interview with Mr. Jeffrey Donenfeld. If you want to know more about Jeffrey's work, please visit jeffreydonenfeld.com. You can also go to, if you want to actually check out some of what we were talking about with like the territorial claims in Antarctica, check out the visualcapitalist.com mapping territorial claims in Antarctica article. It's pretty enlightening, and you can certainly see it all there. Read up on the Explorers Club at explorers.org. And this has been another episode of the YPT.life podcast. Hopefully you'll hear me again soon, or I'll see you again soon at some crazy destination your mother wishes you'd stayed away from. I'm Justin Martell. Until next time.